third service, you should listen to it again. It was a very powerful message. Hallelujah. I want to teach this morning on know your battles, not after the flesh. Know your battles, not after the flesh. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 4. Know your battles, not after the flesh. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 4. Can we have it in NIV? 1, 2, 3, go. Voltage. 1, 2, 3, go. Not weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine powers to demolish strongholds. Can we have it in KJV? KJV. For the weapons of our warfare are not what? Are not carnal. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God. Mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Know your battles, not after the flesh. Can you sit and listen very attentively? Know your battles, not after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to pulling down of strongholds. The battles of life are not physical. However, what we see are the physical effects of the battles that are spiritual. The battles of life are not physical, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. The battles of life are not physical, but what we see, sometimes the headache you see, the quarrels you see amongst couples, the divorce, the depression, the fear that you see are only physical effects. But that doesn't mean that they are physical. So what it means that the orchestration in the spirit realm, there are things that have been planned, there are things that are influences, demonic influences, satanic influences. But what you see that manifests in the physical are physical effects. We must not confuse physical effects to be physical orchestration. We must not confuse it. What you see are physical effects, but they are not physically governed. They are not physically controlled. They are spiritually controlled, but the effects are seen in the physical. Let's look at Revelations 12 verse 9, NIV. Revelations 12 verse 9, NIV. Revelations 12 verse 9, NIV. It says, the great dragon was hauled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. The great dragon was hauled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. So when you see marriages astray, you see arguments, disagreements, there is a leading, there's an influence. The ancient serpent called the devil or Satan leads the whole world astray. Many believers, unfortunately, are fighting fleshy battles. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. What we use to fight are fleshy weapons, the weapons of our flesh. And the flesh doesn't even have any weapon. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So flesh is not a weapon. But many times, many people are caught fighting the battles according, using their flesh. And the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not carnal. You argue with people, you do certain confrontations. You confront a lot in the physical and not do spiritual confrontations. And that's why you realize that it looks like you are still roving around the same kind of problem, the same kind of issue, because you see, we fight a wrong fight. The fight of flesh is a wrong fight. But the fight in the spirit is the good fight of faith. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Romans 7:21 to 23 NIV, Romans 7, 21 to 23 NIV. Look at what Paul said. He says, so I find this law at work. Although I want to be good, evil is right there with me. 22. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law. 23. But I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. There is something called the battlefield of the mind. There is something called a war in mind. Sometimes you see someone engage in all manner of things that are worldly. And like, this person is worldly, this person is this. You rebuke. You use flesh in rebuking flesh rather than spirit rebuking flesh. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. The battle is not first physical, even though it has physical effects. The battle is first spiritual. Before you saw the temptation in the physical, there was already an orchestration in the spirits. The temptation was first orchestrated in the spirit. The trials was first orchestrated in the spirit. There was invisible work in the spirit that was warring against you. That's why sometimes before you say a word, have you ever said something and you're like, how did this word come out of my mouth? It's spiritual influence. Sometimes you say the words that you do not even know. It's beyond your control. You just say it and like, there is a war against the law. Waging. It's continuous. War is continuous. The war, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner. Something is making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. The battle is not first physical. It has physical effects that was influenced in the spirits. Ways to identify your spiritual battle. It's very important because even when you go to the doctor and you are sick, even though you may look sick, the doctor would always ask, what are the signs? What are the symptoms? Failure to identify the symptom can lead to a wrong diagnosis. Failure to note specifically the symptoms can lead to a failed diagnosis. There is no doctor that will tell you to go to write some specific medical tests for you to do to go to the lab without first clocking you, asking you symptoms. Failure to identify symptoms will not make you know how to wage the right fight, how to fight the right fight. There's a right fight to fight. But you need to identify to know solutions. Ways to identify your spiritual battles. Number 1, be sensitive or designed to note the spiritual roots behind physical problems. The problems are physical, but there is a spiritual root to the problem. Identify the spiritual roots behind physical problems. Ephesians 6 verse 12. Ephesians 6 verse 12 NIV. Ephesians 6 verse 12 NIV. It says, for our struggle, did you see that word? For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Can I have it in NKJV, please? NKJV. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts. Have you seen all the lines of the against? They are all spiritual. Principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Let's look at Matthew. Let's look at a story in the Bible that shows the spiritual roots behind the physical problem. Matthew 17, 14 to 15 NIV. Matthew 17, 14 to 15 NIV. Matthew 17, 14 to 15, NIV. When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus